his takes, and I'd love to hear his take on the college football playoff, because we know Alabama and Indiana, it's going to be a lot of fun. So joining us, former NFL pro, 9 years in the league, joining us here, George Teague here on the All right, George. Well, you know what? It's got to feel good for them Bama boys, because the fact of, number one, they got the job done against Oklahoma. Now they got to go and play Indiana and potentially number one overall pick in Fernando Mendoza. So let's start with a couple things. Number one is how the college football platform, how it started up, because we talked about it earlier with the James Madison and Tulane thing, Notre Dame. I mean, look, the college football is not in the happy business. You can't make everybody happy. The only thing you can do is make it competent enough where you've got the 8 best teams in the playoff, and the rest of them, I compare it like this. It's an invitation to the Met Gala. You know, you get a free cocktail or a free drink of wine, and you're standing there and talking with the biggest businessmen, entrepreneurs that you got. And that's all these big programs. So was it kind of right for the college football committee to put this together? I mean, Tulane and James Madison, it is what it is. They got to fix that with the group of 5. But did they kind of get this right? Because honestly, Notre Dame had a chance to win one of those 2 games, and they lost both of them, one of them including Miami.
Well, yeah. Now your viewers are going to say I'm being a homer because Alabama got in. The Notre Dame folk would say that they're supposed to be in instead of Alabama.
Yeah.
I think what the committee has to do a better job of earlier, I think, is how they're actually coming up with this ranking, because it does come a little bit weird, suspicious, or whatever when all of a sudden, Miami is ranked way, way down, far away from Notre Dame. Then all of a sudden they get flipped, and neither one of them played a game. So I believe they got it right. I'm going to say that. I think their deal was right on how they got to it. It just looks kind of weird and fishy, when you got teams that are being moved around when they hadn't even played a game. So it devalues championship games. It devalues the bowl games. That's a whole other topic. But, to a bigger point on what you were saying, I think that I don't like the whole. I like your analogy of, hey, find the 8. I think we were told in the beginning, hey, we're going to find the 12 best. So then guys like me going, well, you didn't find the 12 best. You slid in these other guys. So I just want to be clarity. What are we trying to do? Are we trying to find the 12 best, which might include the group of 5 or not? Or are we just trying to find who some committee says are the 12 best teams in the country? Because if that's the case, then JMU probably shouldn't have been in there, or Tulane for that matter. So I just want a little clarity, man. That's all I'm asking for. Just tell me what we're really trying to do, and then I can get on board. I just don't. It's not like basketball. I got to hear what you're saying with the analogies. Maybe you can have some Cinderella teams that come and knock somebody off. That doesn't really happen in football too much, too often. You got. I mean, what's the chances of some of these guys beating them? I've heard other players. I love that I've heard from the group of 5 players saying, dude, we can't play with them dudes. No matter how good we are, we don't have the depth. We don't have the stack, the people that can do that. I remember my son, he played at Drake University, and they wanted to go. Some team, not Alabama, but somebody called them and wanted to give them, millions of dollars to come play. And all the players are like, what? Why are we going to go play that guy? I know we're going to get some money, but why am I going to go out here and get hurt?
Right.
For that. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. And I'm all about, being in the clarity business, because in the end, I mean, they started this because of obviously like teams that got snubbed out, the whole Florida State thing, and then, the rest of it. I mean, last year, like, think about it. We didn't have Alabama, and rightfully so, because Alabama didn't even play their best last year. Right. And so it's like, what's the deal? You can't make everybody happy in this. And now the best part I like what they adjust was it's the 4 best teams, not the conference bid, like when you saw Boise State and Arizona State, they go into the top 4. I'm like, me personally, they're not a top 4 best team.
That's
like,
right.
You're going to tell me a group of 5 that, like, yes, I mean, to give them respect, like, they play competitively, but they're not up there in the class of Alabama or Georgia and any of them. Like, that would just be too much to handle. So I like how they adjusted this, but it's not quite perfect yet. I mean, you give it another year, but I also do believe this is give this college football a CEO, please, for the love of God, because it's like the money's going to get bigger. You got your bigger programs that know how to pull out the paychecks, and then some of the smaller programs, the little guys, like it's hard for them to even compete. But still, you got a pipeline, you got locations where you can recruit them. You don't stop recruiting, but you got to find ways in order to finagle it to where you are punched in the map. So I think it's just going to be interesting. But my big takeaway is I wanted to talk about this is so Alabama, they're in the playoffs. And of course, everybody's going to react because Alabama's in it. But look, it's still the standard of the SEC. But so they beat Oklahoma. They're now about to play Indiana. And
Yes.
lots of people believe even though Indiana in the Big Ten with Ohio State and Michigan and all of them, they're a trench warfare conference. They know how to play physical, they know how to get after it. But Alabama, what I've watched in the last couple games, they've made adjustments. It's still not pretty, but I love Ty Simpson and I love what he's been able to do distributing the ball. I think Ryan Williams had a rough day, not drops and all that. They got to fix that. But defensively, they've been able to turn things around. So, outlooking this game here, George, what would you see as far as a team that's usually built for gridiron games in the Big Ten? How Alabama has to instill all that pressure and use that against them?
Yes, and I kind of remember some of these feelings that I had when I played way back when, being told, "Hey, you didn't belong, you shouldn't be there." And that's when 1992, when Alabama played the Miami Hurricanes. I think one person picked us to win the game, and I feel like that's kind of where Alabama is now. Hey, they really shouldn't be in there. IU is this, that, and the other. But here's the deal: I think some people are overlooking what strength of schedule actually means when you've had that kind of run, regardless of how unhappy you might have been in some of your games that you didn't play as well as you can. But now I think we're it's like having scars, right? You're in a big boxing match or you get bleeding or whatever, your skin starts to harden a little bit. And that's what's happening with Bama. And
Yeah.
now they're at the point where, hey, they've been battle tested. And now you're telling them you're not good enough. I think that's the wrong type of attitude to put forth to these young kids and these coaches because Kellen DeBoer has something to prove. Forget
Yep.
the guys. He's got something to prove. You think he's not coaching his ass off
That's
right
right.
now and get with those coaches? Womack, you just start talking about the defense getting better. I remember everybody in the Alabama community last year saying how bad of a hire he was. We couldn't stop the run. We couldn't do this.
Yep.
Not enough pressure. What's up with this 3-man front? Now, all of a sudden, he's beating some big schools, some competitive teams, and he's getting more pressure. And you get 5 sacks or whatever in the second half of the Oklahoma game. He's figuring things out. And so you got all these people here that are just backs against the wall, man. When you poke a bear like that, I think it just makes for a better game than most would think about. And so I just wondering if it will stop once Alabama beats the Hoosiers, sends them back to the basketball arena. You had a basketball player, send them back on over there to the basketball arena and tell you ain't really ready for this yet. You have a couple good years or whatever, but the legacy ain't there. So anyway, yeah, you're gonna get me started talking all kind of trash.
Hey, you know what though? I absolutely love it. That's the tribalness of college football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, and they got a familiar guy who's talking a lot of that stuff, and he's just building up a basketball program that's finally finding relevancy in themselves. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. I do want to shift to the NFL. So I wanted to shift to one team. I watched them, and I talked about this earlier. I watched the Saturday game, and Green Bay was without Jordan Love, Micah Parsons. And this team right now, it's failing to truthfully find consistent identity. And I understand it all. I mean, Malik Willis, though, however, that kid is going to get some calls. He's going to get a contract somewhere, even if you try to keep him there in Green Bay. But this team doesn't quite have enough of that physicality like they did when Parsons was there. And I guess, yeah, the juice, when that's gone, it is harder to really kind of get back up and build the consistency. But my big takeaway is, I mean, Baltimore had something to play for. Like Baltimore wants to get into the playoff. They don't want to lose out on it against Pittsburgh. But for Green Bay, the last couple of years, they either missed the playoff or they edged it and got into the 7th seed. So a lot of question marks are, this team is still young. Matt LaFleur, is he even the guy? Like, what do you make of Green Bay? Because to me, I think it's hard for them to find the identity, but it's not to say this team won't bounce back and find that rhythm, even if it means you got to find that up next year.
Well, with Green Bay, and I love Green Bay for my days that I used to play there as well. Spent 3 years there, got a lot of friends and things up there. And here's what I got to say about that where you're at now, when people say, well, one guy doesn't make a difference. Well, that's not true. One guy does make a difference. Yep. Jordan Love is very good, but what Aaron Rodgers was able to do with the receiving core that he had, meaning not the big name guys, is different than what Jordan Love could do or not do with those same type of guys that you're trying to draft. So your drafting principles may have to change a little bit by the way that you who your quarterback is. Michael Parsons is definitely a big loss, just from a pass rush perspective and all that kind of stuff. Now they're good. I mean, they got a very good defense. But it's different when a generational guy is not on the field at all. So when you take away two guys like that, yes, Malik came in, man, he had a heck of a game. He's running around, he's doing this stuff, but you know what? It catches up to you later on too. I'm talking about from a player. You see these guys, yeah, he's a rookie or whatever, or not many games, but you don't have any tape to prepare for him. Now all of a sudden you start getting film and he starts looking different 3-4 games down the road.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think they're going to slide. I don't think that they're almost a little Detroit-ish. They're a good football team. I think the Bears have passed them up at this point. The Vikings have already fell off. So, that leaves them. And they're just not to the caliber I think they need to be all the way around. They're going to have to find some good receivers that are going to fit what Jordan Love is trying to do.
I agree. I mean, it takes growing pains, to kind of get through and to finally find that niche that they need to. So it'll be interesting to watch, especially even with how insane the playoffs have literally looked like on the bracket. So, yeah, it's crazy. Final question here, talking about them Dallas Cowboys. So obviously not in the playoff contention. And obviously it is what it is. However, Jerry Jones and company, I mean, they've really got to think about this with their future very carefully because, first of all, you go up and get a bunch of top round picks, okay, and you have an opportunity to fix up your defense because they got Quinnen Williams and they get Logan Wilson. And the question mark right now is the secondary. And, I mean, that is one they really have to address. But, George, this has been a fun offense. And I said from the beginning, when they got George Pickens, he was going to have a semi Cortland Sutton season where I get over 1,000 receiving yards. I get about 75 to 80 catches and get at least 7+ scores. And he's done just that. But it's going to be hard to convince to keep him in the star because we know Dallas love to play their stars. But you're thinking of one, you're paying Dak. You're paying a bunch of guys, CeeDee Lamb. So there's going to be an awful lot of question marks, but it's very critique stuff that they really have to come to fruition with. When you go into the draft, you got to fix up that defense. You also got to develop up more of that run game. I mean, Javonte Williams has had a very good year, but you got to build consistency off of that. What's the outlook for the Dallas Cowboys? And is that something that we all know the big man in that chair really has to get this right for the next 2 years that's going to be right up in front of them.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't think he's going to get it right. Now, he's my buddy. I still work over there, do some media stuff with him and all this kind of stuff. But Jerry Jones, man, he's not going to do what people think. You would think already Pickens is already supposed to be signed, offered something. You're going to let him get all the way through this year, going to be in the top 3 wide receivers of the year. You think he's not going to ask for more money than you? Come on, man. Go ahead and get this dude for cheap before it's too late. And Dak's going to be in there probably begging him like, hey, man, we got something good here now. Jerry, it's the spectacle. We need to start believing Jerry for what he says he is. The story, the headlines. He wants to, this is going to be a holdout. He's going to tag Pickens probably or something, and then have this draw out all the way into camp so we can talk about the Cowboys all the way to September before the first kickoff. That's just right. What he does. So, no, he messes those things up, and then players get mad, and then all of a sudden they want to get traded. They're laying down like Michael Parsons on the table, like, oh, God, can I get out of here? That kind of thing. So I hate that. For our squad, because I really wish we could just go ahead and be happy all the way through offseason, just knowing like, man, we really got a chance, not some made up kind of stuff. 1 point for you, because I'm a DB and you started talking about the secondary, bro. Eberflus did some weird things with our secondary this year. I don't like to talk about coaches because I coach and all this kind of stuff, but there's a lot of leverage things when you talk about guys. You got Bland. He's a man guy, likes to look at the ball. Diggs is a man guy, but he doesn't necessarily like to look at the ball, but you got to get these guys in the best positions that you can. You got a fierce headhunter in Donovan Wilson. You got a different makeup here, but that is kind of a man-built corner team. Yeah. Makes me think of when I played with Deion Sanders, right? And Kevin Smith. They were very different, but I, as a safety, knew what their strengths and weaknesses were, and we talked about it so we could figure out how to mesh these things. I don't know if any of that's happening. It seemed like we got 11 guys playing for themselves. Yeah. So who knows what they're going to do with the defensive coordinator, but I'll tell you what, ranked last in defense or 31st, whatever they are, is way down there. It doesn't bode well for people, contracts, and for coaching staffs.
Oh man, if they, I've heard a lot of the buzzes about Matt Eberflus, and honestly, they're ready for him to go and get a guy that we know sets up the schemes well, very creative, and at the same time accumulates to the guy's strengths, the guys that they know this is what you're good at. And we can set up guys that we know that can help to accumulate to fix up the problems that we know Dallas has been dealing with. Because to me, George, it's like, this is a fun offense. I'd hate for that to go away because the defense isn't up and on the same page yet. So that's my part is, and we know it's a pendulum swing in the NFL. You're going to get one or the other. It's hard to make a perfect balance, but if you make it competent enough, that's where a lot of those gritty teams end up in the position to going into the playoffs. So should be interesting of the offseason, but I cannot wait for it. And we'll see what that guy, Jerry Jones, has to say for himself. Appreciate you for coming on by here, George. Happy New Year to you and your family. And I love your show, Teague's Takes, guys. If you haven't gotten a chance to check it out, check out his show, Teague's Take. He's got a lot of great takes, just like what we do here up and on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Enjoy it. And listen, go Roll Tide.
Yes,
it's Indiana. Let's make it happen.
Roll Tide, baby.
Take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.
Absolutely. All righty, folks. Well,